Okay, this is the video part of my radical revision assignment. This is for Professor Partridge. I guess anyone else can watch it if you want. My research paper was on sports cars, and for the revision of that, I'm doing how mankind has become reliant on technology and how this technology is clashing with environmentalism. So for a long time, mankind has come up with ways to do things. We either do it out of necessity or we do it out of some kind of luxury. We want something. Like in ancient days, we used to just throw rocks at animals, kill them at point blank range. Then we developed spears and bows and arrows. So, hunters probably couldn't go back to rocks. When mankind became civilized, we actually had ready meat, and we could grow food. We didn't have to hunt and gather anymore. We probably couldn't go back to hunter-gatherer. We just became reliant on civilized luxuries to help us out. So again, we couldn't go back. Mankind found a lot of luxuries in being civilized that we wouldn't have otherwise. Like we found ways to trade with each other. We became reliant on foreign goods. A lot of people were thinkers and inventors, and they came up with stuff. We became reliant on it again. I know Rome was famous, for example, for trading with China. That's how they got the spice trade going, and a lot of other things from they'd trade with the Middle East. They had an empire, kind of an inner empire based off trade, where different provinces traded with each other and stuff. So there was that, and with each era, mankind has come up with new things. We've basically become reliant on. There's a novelty part of new inventions too. There's things that are a novelty, and then we basically become reliant on it afterwards. I've seen this in my lifetime. I've seen people become reliant on cell phones and computers within my lifetime. For one, before they were just a novelty. So the Industrial Revolution was no exception to this. And that's when we really started to notice damage to our world done through industry and that kind of thing. Is during that revolution, a lot of factories came up, steamboats, the locomotive. The second Industrial Revolution, we came up with two things. We came up with the airplane, and we came up with the automobile. Now, at first, the automobile was kind of a novelty. It was invented by Carl Benz in 1886, and it wouldn't really start till mass production until Henry Ford's day. Started again with Germany, and under Hitler, he actually made the Volkswagen. But it didn't really become... It was mainstream, but it really became mainstream after World War II. In fact, Briggs Cunningham, I put in my report, he's a race car driver and a sports car manufacturer, that every car in the early days was a sports car. And he meant like the automobile industry was kind of in its infancy, and it was still kind of an era of exploration in a way. We were exploring what to do with it and that kind of thing. One thing we really didn't know, we didn't finalize in the early days, was fuel. We didn't know what kind of fuel would be the standard. Henry Ford even thought we would have hemp fuel to be the future. We tried peanut oil and different things. Well, the standard has become fossil fuels, and that's really hurting our environment. It really became apparent in the 60s that this was hurting our environment a lot. The 1960s, we actually began to make laws to limit emissions and fuel economy. 60s and 70s when we did this the most. And the world is becoming to be 7 billion people now. And third world countries are industrializing, like China and India are really becoming industrialized. And we become reliant on not only automobiles, but transportation. Like I've pointed out, a lot of people in large cities, they probably can produce things for themselves. So if they had to produce their own clothes, their own food, cities like New York or London or other large cities of the world, they couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it. We've become reliant on, even if you don't have a car, we import a lot of goods. Those goods are shipped to where we live. We've become reliant on transportation, be it personal or be it like industrial transportation. So we've come to a point where, our needs and desires for what we want are clashing with environmentalism. We need both. We need a world to live in, and we need all this stuff we're importing and that kind of thing. So I think a good alternative to this would be to research in alternative fuels. As I've mentioned, hemp. Hemp is illegal because it's related to drugs, but some states are overturning that. They're making legalized drugs now, or legalized at least marijuana. So I'm hoping hemp fuel will become a reliable source of energy. It is renewable because we can grow it, and Henry Ford thought this had potential. He was hoping it did. but it hasn't materialized. We're still on fossil fuels. There's some other fuels out there that I've been looking into besides hemp. Peanut oil I know was researched in the early days, and also synthetic oil made out of superheated coal and other things. And there's some companies that are researching this, and they're doing a good job. Porsche has been doing environmental research since the 60s, and some other companies out there are making hybrids and that kind of thing. We definitely need to find a balance in between our technical innovation and what we need to survive, and also with our environment. If we don't do this, basically we're going to doom our world eventually. So we've got to realize this as consumers, and I'm hoping our governments and large companies realize it as well. Anyway, this is my radical revision, and thank you again for your time.